Hey everybody, I'm Harjit Singh Gill and I'm here with Dave. Dave, is it Zirin? I see it says so many ways.
Yeah, it's Zirin, like a fire siren, although I never get mad at people for mispronouncing it because it's not a real name. It was like a 26-syllable name that got chopped at Ellis Island.
Okay.
So how can I really fault someone for getting it wrong?
Okay, so I will from now
It's
on
Zirin.
call you Zirin. Okay.
Like a fire siren with a Z. Yeah.
So we're here with Dave Zirin.
Nice.
The editor of The Nation Sports.
Yes.
And as well as a bunch of other things, author of a ton of books.
I'm also the only sports writer at The Nation, so technically I only edit myself. But it's a nice title.
Yeah, it's a great title.
Yes.
So thanks so much for sitting with us. We just have a few great questions, I think, that I've come up with my friend Timmy. But just the ones that we've always wanted to ask you. So one of them is, in all seriousness, like, knowing all the awful things we do about owners and how just atrocious of human beings they are, and the politics of sports and everything, how do you remain a fan? I mean, you're, I imagine, a fan of the Washington football team that we won't name because it's a racial epithet.
Yes.
But, and I say this as a Laker fan, like, how do you remain a fan of your team?
Which is offensive to common sense because there are no lakes in Los Angeles.
There's an ocean.
Yeah, they're not the LA Oceans.
Yeah.
No.
So how do you remain a fan?
Well, first of all, let me just say it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Second of all, honestly, there are two traditions in sports. There's the I look at it as the George Steinbrenner tradition and the Billie Jean King, Muhammad Ali tradition. And you have to reckon with the fact, you have to reckon with the fact that there are two traditions. And we have to challenge the tradition we don't like to change. And we have to actually support and actually teach people about that other tradition that does exist in sports. And there's no question that it does exist. I mean, you cannot tell the story of the civil rights movement without talking about Jackie Robinson, and you can't tell the story of the 60s without talking about Ali and Billie Jean King. And now, forevermore, we're going to say you can't tell the history of LGBT liberation without talking about Martina Navratilova, Brittany Griner, and now Jason Collins. So it's part of our history. But I also want to say this. Why do we hold sports, of all the cultural products produced by, late stage capitalism, this time we're living in, why do we only hold sports up to such a harsh mirror? Think about it. Would we ever say, how can you possibly like movies, given all that crap that's put out by Hollywood? No one would ever say that.
And the industry.
How can you possibly like music, given the existence of, fill in the blank artist, no one would ever say that, or if they did say that, they would not be taken seriously. They would just be told, well, that's corporate music, or well, that's corporate cinema, or I like this other kind of it. And I think it's harder to see sports that way because it's not like we have the people's NBA and the corporate NBA. There's just the NBA. But I think what people have to realize is that there are multiple stories going on inside the NBA, and we should hate on what should be hated on, but also support what's artistic and beautiful and amazing about it.
Thank you. So this is a question I've been thinking about a lot. You have a whole book about owners and how they're ruining sports, which I agree with the thesis of and everything. So can you say two nice things about Marlins scumbag owner Jeffrey Loria, who robbed the people of Miami to the tune of, $2.5 billion? That's our...
Wow, I got no prep for these questions. Two nice things about Jeffrey Loria. Yeah. Okay, one, he makes Dick Morris look handsome. He kind of looks like an ugly version of Dick Morris. And it's nice that someone makes Dick Morris feel good about how he looks. Okay. Because otherwise he just looks like a bulbous toad. So I'm happy that he's done that. And the second nice thing to say about Jeffrey Loria is that he's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that, don't hate the player, hate the game. I mean, the guy has... more than any other player out there showed that the game is corporate welfare. And he plays it as good as anybody who's ever been in an ownership suite.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jeffrey Loria, for exposing the game in such bright teal colors for all of us to see.
All I had was that he has, for his age, he has a really good head of hair.
Oh, he does.
Yeah,
doesn't he look like Dick Morris?
He does. He does look like Dick Morris. It's just
a slightly less attractive Dick Morris.
I've just seen the side shot, and he's got this flowing gray hair, and I was like, wow,
amazing.
For his age, it's there.
Yes.
It may not be.
Although when you're that rich, you buy someone else's hair and get it glued on.
Right. So,
I don't trust it.
no, I don't either. It just
I mean,
looks
everything
good.
about him is fake. The finances of that park are fake. His hair is probably fake too.
Yeah, and he got a bunch of people fired, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, a few people we want to talk about, like Chris Kluwe, the punter, formerly of the Vikings. As of today, I don't know if it's official, but an Oakland Raiders punter is official. This morning was the last time I got to check the news. Brendan
Ayen Badejo.
thank you. Who is he still unemployed?
He is.
He is unemployed. And then we've got Tim Tebow, who's unemployed on the other end of it. So, are politically outspoken athletes in general at risk of being blacklisted, basically? Are we looking at a moment where, some of these players may not be able to find jobs because they're outspoken? Abendale was a linebacker for the Ravens.
He was also 36, and the Ravens were dumping all kinds of salary.
Yeah.
All three of those people, incredibly defensible football moves.
Mm-hmm.
Getting Tebow out of New York, very defensible. Turn that town into a circus. Kluwe out of the Vikings, a great punter, but they drafted someone they could pay 1/3 his salary to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is corporate America. If people are upset about this, that's what they should be upset about. I am Badejo, 36. Age discrimination. If he wants to bring a suit forward, more power to him.
Yeah.
But they got rid of Ed Reed, for goodness sakes.
Right.
And Anquan Bolden. They were salary dumping all over the place. I think that the danger of saying that outspoken athletes get dumped when it's not true, and that's why I'm making these points, is that it could actually discourage people from speaking out when actually I do think the climate has changed in the NFL in particular. And that if a player spoke out about this, they wouldn't necessarily be risking their job. I really do believe that. And that's because of the work of players, organizations like You Can Play. And that's a change, and it's a welcome change. Tebow is a very interesting case, and I just wrote about this. I think that there are several rosters with worse quarterbacks than Tim Tebow. And he's not very good.
Yeah.
But there are several rosters that have worse quarterbacks on them.
Right.
So why don't you bring on Tim Tebow? Because even though a lot of owners actually do share his politics and support the organizations that Tim Tebow likes, the one thing that NFL teams are allergic to, especially these very militaristic head coaches, is the concept of the distraction. Mm-hmm. And if there's one thing that you can say about Tim Tebow, and I think this is a very legitimate criticism of him, in addition to some of the criticisms of his play, is that he does seem to welcome the fact that he has this base who loves him independent of his football ability, because he thinks he can leverage. I think he leveraged his base to play over Kyle Orton.
Oh, yeah.
And that worked out, and he tried to do it with the Mark Sanchez situation, and all he really succeeded in doing was cracking and breaking Mark Sanchez, and effectively breaking the Jets team as well.
And we should say Kyle Orton was the quarterback with the Broncos, and then Mark Sanchez with the Jets, who may or may not lose his job this year to another young quarterback. But
yes,
that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Ironically, a quarterback, Geno Smith, who you could argue is as much of a project as Tim Tebow would have been, could certainly make that case. But Geno Smith does not bring with him this entourage of distractions that Tim Tebow does, and teams don't want any part of that. Yeah. And it's you know what, to me, the Tebow choice, which stands out, and I know some people probably watching this could care less about Tim Tebow, and more sympathetic I could not be, but he had the chance to leave Denver and probably start in Jacksonville, in his home state, where he also would have had a small media market and could have actually worked on his game. He chose to go to New York for the brand, for the back cover of the Post and the Daily News. So it's kind of like you reap what you sow. Yeah. And he made, I think, a fatal choice for his career.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we got to cut this off right now. We're all leaving the building.
Okay. Sincerely, Homer Simpson.